this attempt doesn't work out for me, then the next attempt is going to work out for me. And I'm going to keep the attempt. As long as I got breath in my body, breath in my lungs, I have hope because God has placed this inside of me. And at some point, it's going to happen. All a L is a lesson. You got to be willing to accept the lessons because the lessons make you wiser.
No matter what you go through, keep dreaming. Keep going, don't quit, keep reaching. You can be the best you wanna be, gotta believe it. Keep the faith, the mustard seed is all needed. You gotta want it as bad as you breathe. My journey and your journey different but unique. I wear that CJ on my chest as a reminder.
Well, good morning and welcome back to the Keep Dreaming podcast. Again, I'm so grateful and thankful for you all tuning in, whether you are tuning in on Apple, Spotify, or my YouTube. I'm very, very grateful. And today is yet another day that God has blessed us with. And so I'm very excited for today's episode. I feel like today's episode is going to be very encouraging, very uplifting. And so I kind of want to go ahead and get into it. And so on today, the type of coffee that I'm drinking kind of a flavored coffee. I needed a little bit of a flavor on today to kind of get my spirits going. And so I'm drinking a mocha. It's something about a mocha flavor. It's very rich. I'm feeling very rich in my spirit on today, very rich in my soul. And so that's just kind of what I'm drinking on today. And so if you got your coffee mug, if you got your tea, if you got your water, whatever it is that you have, let's do a cheers. Now let's jump into today's episode. Okay, so let's think about this for a minute. What if you were in a situation, and you might have been in this situation many times in life where you have done something time and time again, and then the reality sets in that you didn't get the results that you wanted. You didn't get the outcome that you wanted. And maybe in your heart, maybe in your mind, you're like, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to happen. I've tried enough. I've done this enough. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe I heard God wrong. Maybe the prayer that I wrote down, maybe it hasn't been answered yet. Maybe. And the reality is that it could possibly be true, or it may not be time. It may not be your season yet, or it could be a plethora of different things. But sometimes when you try and try again, when you try for the third, fourth time in that relationship with that person and things still just haven't worked out, or you have tried on this business idea time and time again and it still hasn't worked out, it still hasn't come into existence. You've maybe tried this product and you're trying to create this product and you've tried many times and you've made many attempts and yet it still hasn't happened. And what if a voice comes to you, a strong thought, and it says, try again? Would you be willing to try again, or would you admit defeat? Would you allow defeat to come and take over your spirits, take over your heart, take over the emotions that you are feeling, and you are unwilling to try again? Well, the title for today's message for episode 4 is Try Again. I want you to be open-minded when we are going through this episode, because to try again means that I got to face the failed attempts that I've already made. I've already seen with my own eyes, with my physical ailments, the attempts that I have made, and they have not been successful. So you're telling me, Charleston Girley, you're telling me through this camera, through this video, that I have to try again? You haven't been in my shoes. You haven't tried as many times as I've tried. You haven't failed as many times as I've failed. You haven't gotten your hopes up as many times as I've gotten mine up. Maybe, maybe not. You don't know my story. But I've tried many things, many times, and I've faced defeat many times. But there is always a thought, always a voice from God that has told me to try again. And my message to you this morning, wherever you're at, whatever you got going on in your life, whatever you've been praying for, whatever you've been talking to God about, I want you to try again. So you know I love movies. You know I love talking about like different movie scenes. And so I was thinking about what did I want to talk to you all about on this morning, a movie scene that is very relatable, a movie scene that we could, relate to, but more so from our childhood, because I like to pull from our childhood. Now, the reason why I like to pull from the childhood is because that's the greatest dreamer in you. You were so close to God when you were a kid because you were just with him. Like before you came into this world, you were with your Creator. And so a lot of times I like to reflect over childhood. I like to find movies, stories from your childhood, because that's going to really speak to the inner child in you. And before we go any further, I want you to go find that inner child, that younger boy version of you, that younger girl version of you. I want you to go find that person, and I want you to keep your hands on their hands. I want you to take them wherever you go, they go, because that's the greatest version of you. That's when you had so much imagination, where you had so much dreams. You could dream, daydream, night dream, all of these different dreams. Like, you could imagine beyond this world. And so I want you to learn to take that person with you wherever you go. They're still inside of you. You just got a little bit older. You got a little bit wiser. But that inner child in you is still in you. So I want you to make sure that you take that inner child with you wherever you go. Now, back to the movie. So there was another movie that I watched growing up, and it was more of a cartoon type movie. And the movie is called Finding Nemo. I'm pretty sure you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, I'm quite sure that you've heard of it. But it was a fantastic movie. And then basically in this movie, it was about a father who had lost his son. Now, there are many stories in the Bible that, kind of talk about this, but I'm going to focus the lesson in a different application. And so the father in the movie, his name is Marlin, and he ends up losing his son, Nemo, in the ocean. Stay with me. He ends up losing his son, Nemo, in the ocean. Now, he experiences, maybe some fear, some doubt. He experiences, some guilt, all these different things. And he loses his son in the ocean. Now, the reality about this whole movie is that even though he experiences like this guilt, in order for him to find his son Nemo, he has to go back into the ocean. He has to go back to a place where he felt defeat. He has to go back to a place where he experienced failure within his own mind, within his own heart, within his own spirit. So he has to try again in a place that he was not successful in. He lost his son. I don't know what greater failure there is. I've experienced failed businesses before, failed ideas, but to lose my flesh and blood, and now I got to build up the courage. I got to build up the strength. I got to build up the mindset to go back to the place that I lost him. But that was the only way that he could find his son Nemo. And so basically in that movie, Marlin had to try again. And I'm here to tell you, you got to be willing to try again. Now, when I think back on my own life, and I think about many times where I've had to try again, there was one instance in my life where I felt like I didn't want to try again. I felt so defeated. I felt so tired, but I felt God calling me to just continue to try again. So this was when I was in college, and I had ended up getting my bachelor's of accounting. And I talked to my mom about this quite frequently because that was at least one of the hardest times ever in my life. Accounting was extremely, extremely difficult. But by the Lord's grace, I was able to graduate with my bachelor's in accounting. And in 2015, from Arkansas State, I was the only African-American to graduate with an accounting degree. So shout out to God, because it couldn't have been anything on my own, but that was all God's power, all God's strength. Nevertheless, I decided to go and get my master's in business administration. Most people refer to it as an MBA degree. What I didn't realize is that in order to get into the master's program, I had to take a thing called a GRE. The best way that I could explain it is that a GRE is just an elevated ACT. Like when you take your ACT in high school, imagine taking an elevated test post-college. Now, throughout my entire college career, I was not good at taking tests. And so they told me I needed to make a specific score in order to get into the graduate program. All right, here we go. So I take the test one time, failed, did not meet the required score. Here I am again. Now, mind you, when you take this test, it costs money. I'm a college student, so I'm not working. I don't have money like that. And so the first attempt failed, did not make it. So now I'm like, okay, I really want to pursue this dream. I really want to get my master's. I see it in my future. I know that I can accomplish this. Tests do not define me, all of this. And so I take it a second time. And you know how like you build up that courage to do something again? You hadn't experienced failure too much, and so now you're ready. You feel like you studied a little bit better, you've gotten a little bit wiser, and boom, I failed again. And so now I'm sitting here with guilt. I'm sitting here in sorrow, and I'm like, man, God, this is what I was pursuing. I studied. Like, why is this not happening? And then he whispered into my ear, try again. Now, here I am. I've had all these different failed attempts. I've spent money that I did not have. And then you start to feel kind of like a sense of embarrassment. Like, why I can't pass this test? How can all these different people pass? I feel like I'm smarter than them. I feel like I'm more capable than them. But see, their story is not my story. Their journey is not my journey. I had to learn that timing for them is not timing for me. God's ways are not my ways. His thoughts are not my thoughts. But I had to sit there and I had to build up enough courage to try again. Now, you want to hear the beautiful story in all of this? I tried for a third attempt. A third attempt. Surely I would make it. I would get into my MBA career and I would go on to get my master's. And then I failed again. But see, this time when I failed, it wasn't about my unwillingness to try again because I was willing. I was willing to try again. It was about my obedience to the instructions that God had gave me. When I followed the instructions, when I listened to the instructions that he told me, that he gave me, though I did not get the results that I thought that I would get in that moment, I still got into my master's program because here's why. I was maybe 2 or 3 points short from the required score, and God put it on my heart to then go to the dean, the College of Business, go to the dean of the College of Business and plead my case to him and explain how a test did not define my capability to do the master's degree and how I was only a couple points short. But had I not been willing to try again, I would have never got into that area, that closeness of the score, and then been able to follow further instructions. And the beautiful story about it all is that the professor ends up saying, I guess I'll let you into the program. Now, there's something about what he said because I went on to excel in the program, and what was a guess at that moment, he used me later to be kind of like the focal point of the business program because I had excelled. Remember, I said a test did not define me. But it was never about him. It was never about, whether or not he would allow me into the master's program. It was whether or not I was willing to try again. Now, the connecting piece in all of this, from Finding Nemo, that movie, to my story and how this connects to you, you got to be willing to lean into the L's. And what I mean by that, a lot of times when we fail, when we don't get the required results, we look at those as losses. But those are not losses. The L's that you experience, whether you are attempting something, whether you feel like you're being defeated, all a L is a lesson. You got to be willing to accept the lessons because the lessons make you wiser. The lessons provide discernment. The lessons allow you to grow. But if I never lean into the L's, if I never am willing to try again, then I can never get there. I can never grow into the person that I'm willing to become. But not only do I got to lean into the L's, I got to embrace them. Now, if God is telling me to try again, then there must be something on the other side of that attempt. And I got to be willing within my heart, within my spirit, to try again. Now, let's go to the Bible because there's a beautiful story in the Bible that relates to all of this. So, remember I said that I read from the Message version, but we are in Luke chapter 5, and it's verses 4 through 6. And so I'm going to read a little bit of this, but this is basically when Peter is told by God to try again to cast his nets out into the water. But in actuality, Peter tells God, he said, man, we've been out all night fishing and we've caught nothing. But God told him to try again, and he had to be willing to try again. All right, here we go. So it says, when he finished teaching, he said to Simon, push out into deep water and let your nets out for a catch. Here we go. Simon said, Master, we've been fishing hard all night and haven't caught even a minnow. But if you say so, I'll let out the nets. And it was no sooner said than done, a huge haul of fish straining the nets past capacity. Now, the beautiful part about this is that Peter listened. But there was a couple things in this. Number one, God said, go out deeper. Go out deeper in the water. When you try again, you got to go a little bit further. Now, when you're going a little bit further, that means you are stepping out a little bit further in your faith walk. You're stepping a little bit further out beyond your element, beyond your limit. And if I step out beyond my limit, now the pressure is on God. Now I'm relying on God. I'm not relying on my own strength no more. So if God is telling me to try again, if I am willing to try again, it's not all the pressure doesn't have to be on me. Now I'm relying on my faith. But if I'm relying on my faith, that's God in the mix. God is in play now. You know, there's only so much that you can do on your own. But when you start to incorporate God, things start to turn into your favor. Things start to happen that you could never imagine happening. Now, when they pushed out into the deep and he let out the nets, a great multitude of fish caught into the net. This is a God thing. This is not a Charleston thing. This is not you as a viewer thing. This is a God thing. And when God is handling it, he does more than you could ever imagine. You see, the previous night when they were on their own, when they were attempting these different things, when they were attempting this business, they were attempting this relationship, they were doing that on their own. When I attempted the GRE, in the beginning, I did that on my own. I might have prayed a little bit about it, but I didn't invite God into my try. I didn't invite God into my attempt. When Peter allowed God to come into the attempt, then he got the results that he was needing. Not only did he get the results that he was needing, it exceeded what he could imagine. So the next time God is telling you to try again, the next time God is telling you to attempt that business idea again, to attempt that relationship again, that's an opportunity to invite God into the try, to invite God into the attempt. If I am attempting something and I bring somebody more powerful, more strong, more built for the moment that's greater than me, greater is he that's within you than he that's within the world. Now, I'm going to talk about one other thing before we get into the application of what I want you to learn. Whenever you are attempting again, whenever you are trying again, sometimes it seems like it's a mountain. Like I've been defeated so much that I feel at the bottom, and this mountain that I'm trying to climb, this business, this legacy that I'm trying to create, generational wealth is what I'm after. And it seems so far away, and you look up and it seems like it's this huge mountain. Psalms 121, I will lift up mine eyes to the hills from whence cometh my help. My help doesn't come from the hills. My help doesn't come from the mountain. I got to look past the mountain. I got to look past the hill. Why? Because it further says, my help comes from the Lord. So when I'm facing this mountain, when I'm facing this peak, I got to look beyond it because there is somebody greater beyond this hill. There's somebody greater beyond this mountain, and that person is God. God is all powerful, all seeing, all knowing. I got to look beyond my troubles. I got to look beyond my circumstances. I got to look beyond this mountain, and I got to be willing to try again because there's somebody greater on the other side that can handle all of this that I'm facing. Now, there are 3 lessons that I want us to learn from this episode. The first, lean into the L's as lessons, not losses. I'm going to say that again. The L's that you experience in this life are lessons, not losses. I got to learn to embrace the L's. A lot of times we get defeated because society has made it seem if you take a L, it's considered a loss. It's not considered a loss. The only time it's considered a loss is if I didn't learn from it. If I learn from it, now it's a lesson. And if it's a lesson, then I know what not to do or what to do on my next attempt. But if I shun away from it, if I run away from it, and if I deny it, now it becomes a loss and I can never grow. So lean into the L's and let them be lessons, not losses. That's going to be the first principle. The second principle, trying again requires a new mindset, not a new location. A lot of times when we want to try again or we want to attempt something, we tell ourselves, man, I just need a new location. I just need a new car. I just need a new house. I need a new boo. I need a new business. We need new. No, the only thing that you need to do is you need to rewire your mindset. And in order to do that, sometimes you got to take some solo time, some isolation, and go back into your mind and see, okay, what did I attempt to do? Was this the right thing to do or was this the wrong thing to do? Did I hear God clearly on this attempt or did I not? You need a new mindset, not a new location, not a new physical ailment, but a new mindset. One of the greatest things that you have in this earth, this world, is your mind. If I can rewire my brain, if I can rewire my mindset to see the positive, to see a different perspective, to lean into this, to grow from this, then I can set myself up to not even be willing just to try again, but I can master the try. You see, I don't want you to just simply try again. I want you to master the try. And in order to master the try, you got to have that confidence. You got to have that assurance. And the way that you do that is by having a new mindset. So the first principle, I got to lean into the L's as lessons, not losses. I got to have a new mindset. And then the third principle, which is going to be the last principle that I want you to take away from this episode, is that hope grows when the lessons replace regret. I'm going to say that again. Hope grows when the lessons replace regret. When you are regretting something, it's not allowing you to move forward. So I got to let go of the regret. If it happened in the past, I got to let that go. Whatever happened, it happened. But I got to focus on hope. Hope is going to keep me walking. Hope is going to keep me pushing. Hope is going to keep me moving forward. I got to have hope on my side. Hope that this attempt is going to work out for me. And if this attempt doesn't work out for me, then the next attempt is going to work out for me. And I'm going to keep the attempt. As long as I got breath in my body, breath in my lungs, I have hope because God has placed this inside of me. And at some point, it's going to happen. One of the things that I always tell myself is that at some point, I'm going to get there. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't know when I'm going to get there, but there's a hope that resides on the inside of me that tells me this is part of God's will for my life. So if I have that hope, forget the regret. I'm not regret. If it happened in the past, if it happened behind me, where I'm not turning around. If I turn around, I risk wrecking, running into somebody, having a wreck, crashing out, whatever. I cannot turn behind. I got to stay forward. I got to keep pushing forward, and I got to keep going. In one of the episodes previous, we talked about comfortability. I can't get comfortable. I refuse to get comfortable. In the Bible, it talks about how God had pulled the Israelites out of Egypt. And because they hadn't got to the promised land in the timing that they wanted, they were willing to go back to Egypt. Hear me well. Because they were not getting to the place that they desired in their timing, they were willing to go back to sabotage, to slavery, to abuse. I'm not going back there. I may not be where I need to be. I may not be where I want to be just yet. I'm going to get there. You're going to get there. But we cannot go back to the past. Don't turn around. Stay forward. Stay looking forward and allow the hope that resides on the inside of you to pull you forward and pull you out of it. Now, for your homework this week, I want you to pull back out your journal and I want you to write on the top of the page, try again. And I want you to write down what you feel like either God is telling you to try again or what you're willing to do again, to try again, whether it's a business, relationship, an idea, whatever it is. I want you to write that down. Then I want you to write down your previous attempts, whether it was attempt 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many attempts. And I want you to write down what you felt like went wrong, whether you lacked courage, whether you lacked something, where you didn't have the financial resources, whatever it is. I want you to write that down. And then I want you to write next attempt because we're going to get you to try again. And when you write down next attempt, I want you to write down what do you need to try again. And that's going to be your prayer this week. When you write down next attempt and it says maybe courage, that's the thing that you wrote down that you need. God, I need courage to be willing to try again. Or, God, I need financial resources to try again. Or God, I need to see some commitment from this person to be willing to try again. But that's going to be the prayer this week. And I want you to reflect over all of that as you go through this week. My prayer is that at the end of this week, or even at the end of this episode, there's a positivity that sits on the inside of you and you become willing to try again. Now, as I sit in this chair, I never want you to feel like that all of this is just easy because it's coming out of my mouth. I've lived these different things. And to say, try again, that was probably one of the most difficult things that I ever had to do because I had to face defeat, or so I thought. I had to face the L's, I had to face the failed attempts, and I had to build up enough courage to do it again. But if I can do it, I know for a fact that you can do it. And so as you go throughout this week, share this episode with somebody, bring somebody along, because there's a perspective that I want you to have. You see, Peter, when he was out on the water, he didn't just catch fish, he caught a perspective. Marlin, he didn't just find Nemo, he found courage. And so when you attempt to do something again, not only do you find what you were originally trying to get, but now you get something greater. When I attempted again with my master's program, not only was I able to get into the program, but I found a strength that I didn't know that I had. Because I kind of struggled when it came to school. And so it showed me that I could accomplish anything that I put my mind to, especially if I had God on my side. So when you try again, not only will God provide for you what it is that you are seeking, but he will give you more than what your heart could ever imagine. And so this is episode 4, titled Try Again. I pray that you have a wonderful week. Again, if you feel like this episode really spoke to you, if you felt like it was very impactful, very enlightening to you, don't just hoard it. Share it with somebody. Bring somebody else along. Make sure you go subscribe to the YouTube. More importantly, make sure that you continue to pray to God about the dreams that you have. Psalm 37:4, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. I pray that you have a wonderful, wonderful week. Stay blessed. And as always, keep dreaming.
It's a reminder that I can do all things through Christ Jesus.
You got to be able to dream again. After you accomplish that one dream, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to God, you owe it to your family to be able to do it again, to dream again. But when you dream again,